Hi, I'm Case Lowe, co-host of the Open the Voice Gate podcast. The one question I'm constantly asked when it comes to Dragon Gate is, how do I get into the promotion? Well, stop asking and start listening to the Open the Voice Gate podcast, released every Wednesday on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. For exclusive news and show reviews, look no further than the leader in Dragon Gate coverage, Open the Voice Gate.
Hello, do you like New Japan Pro Wrestling? Are you a Shin Nihon freak? If so, check out the Super J-Cast with Joel and Damon on the Voices of Wrestling podcast network.
And even if you fucking hate New Japan Pro Wrestling, listen to the Super J-Cast anyway. Not just for our great show reviews, analysis, and pastrami sandwiches, but there's also usually some dick jokes somewhere in the obligatory opening 30 minutes of absolute nonsense we chat about every single week. That's the Super J-Cast for all the best talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, crisps, and pornography.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A-game. A-made, no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A-game, better bring your A-game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A-game. A-made, no rain from the track when we unite.
Hey now, it's the Mike and JD show, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm joined as always by JD by God Oliva. How you doing, JD?
I like the new intro with the Voices of Wrestling bumper in there. I feel like we're officially part of the team after 2 months.
Yeah. No, we're not a part of the team quite yet, because you know what we haven't done yet is
We haven't
do a
recorded
commercial for our show.
Yeah.
We haven't done our spot yet for the rest of the shows. So, and we're actually like, our numbers are pretty decent compared to the rest of the shows.
Mm-hmm.
So even without the spot, but I think they'll get better if we kind of plug our stuff on the other shows. We're gonna have to do that soon. We got to tell Rich.
If we try, yeah, it could go well.
Yeah. Dude, A-game coming on, got me pumped. I missed last week, so thank you, Scott E Wrestling, for filling in for me. I was on a pretty important work trip, so I was unable to make it, but we still knocked out some content, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But I just also want to say that I got a chance to meet Godzilla while I was in Massachusetts. He came over to where I was at. We hung out at a little pizza place outside my hotel and just got to shoot the shit for like an hour. So that was a real cool experience, man. So, and this goes out to the audience. If I'm like ever in your neck of the woods, let me know, man. We might actually fucking hang out, because especially when I'm on a work trip, like I'm a 40-year-old dad. I don't drink and party. So I like to meet other wrestling fans. So that was really cool, man, to get to be able to do that.
Except in Chicago, you don't ever come to Chicago.
No. If they ever send me to Chicago, I am definitely going to have to meet Mr. JD, Gerard, Andre, who's a Patreon subscriber. And anybody else that's in and around the Chicago area, definitely. I'd rather do that than go get shot up by, in Cicero by Al Capone's people.
Al Capone's people. To be fair, a lot of Al Capone's people still might be living in the Cicero area and are in fact acting in forms of local government. But the Cicero area is not quite the what it was in 1932. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. But man, it's good to be back. I was pretty excited that we were able to do some content over the weekend. So if you guys missed my voice here's why I didn't do the show. I was on a work trip, so I couldn't take all my equipment with me. And plus I was dog ass tired going from Hawaii to Boston, and I had no sleep. It was a really tough trip for me. And so when it came to showtime at 11:30 Eastern, I was already asleep. So I couldn't stay up late for it, but B, because I didn't have my podcasting equipment, I just did not feel like it would be a good idea to do a kind of a half-assed audio show and video show for the Voices of Wrestling Network. I like to make sure our shit looks great and sounds great. So we brought in a ringer with Scott, who has a great audience and is a great host. So we did that, but we still were able to knock out some Patreon content for our Patreon network. So head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show, where not only did I do a brace for Impact over the weekend, we also did on Monday, we did a live overtime for Patreon subscribers only. They got their own private YouTube link and they were able to interact with us. We kind of just shot the shit, man, for like an hour, just talking Wrestle Dream and whatever else, and just chatting with the Patreon subscribers.
You were in your hotel room. I was in my classroom. It was the least efficient setup we've ever had, but we did like a really good 1 hour Patreon show. I was really happy with that one.
Yeah, I was really happy with that one too, man. And I was just really excited to talk to the fellas that were in the Patreon, DJ Convoy and Brad and Jonathan Messenger and all the cats out there. Lucha Doncic, I think, popped in the chat for a little bit too. So that was really cool, man. Nice. But JD, so we talked about Wrestle Dream on Monday on Overtime, and just how much we like the show, and then specifically we really got into the Edge debut, Adam Copeland, Edge. His debut at Wrestle Dream, and his AEW Dynamite debut was this past Wednesday. And man, I thought that closing segment and the closing angle between him and Christian, while I was kind of against them feuding and being in a program immediately, it is kind of a no-brainer if you're thinking about it from a promoter's perspective because of the history between them two and the magic that they're able to make. And I thought they knocked it out of the park. I thought they hit a home run.
I absolutely love this segment. I was real tired when I came home and watched the show last night, and I loved the debut. I thought it was fantastic. I did a whole big spiel about it on Overtime about how much I thought it was just well produced, and the whole thing it really worked for me as a wrestling fan. I'm gonna tell you something. I absolutely I know we've been all worried about Mr. Sexton Hardcastle and his tendency to overindulge himself in the promo world, and we've been worried if he's going to sit on a stool in the ring with mood lighting and cut a promo. I think for this one here, he was a tad verbose, but I think for a mission statement promo where it's like, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm going to do. Here's why I'm doing it. I thought it was really good. And I liked how he talked about why he did what he did. I liked that he was the basic gist was he was going to debut anyway, right? He was going to come out at the end of the show, no matter what. And then he saw his best friend was about to hit their childhood hero, and he basically was just going to distract him, right, and slow him down and try to talk some sense into him, right? I love that. And what I said to you and a buddy of ours was that I love that he that Adam Copeland made more sense of the Judgment Day turn in WWE than WWE did, where he just told his friend that you got to be careful with these young guys because they'll chew you up and they'll spit you out. And we had a disagreement with a friend of ours who's like, well, he didn't think that made sense. And it wasn't in this kind of universe. And what I love about AEW is that AEW continuity is pro wrestling continuity, right? And they treat the fans, if you've watched wrestling, like we have Kenny and Kota Ibushi, that's a DDT thing, right?
Yeah.
We have like lots of stuff that carries over. And we're doing the Edge and Christian thing. And it made sense for him to kind of say that because, like, again, in this world, Christian, in this story, Christian Cage is manipulating people, but Edge is doing the same thing with Judgment Day. He put that group together. He got turned on, and now he's trying to tell his buddy, "Hey, this is working for you now, but we're old, and when the young people are done with us, they kick us to the curb." So I like that. Maybe that's not full what the story has been, but it's it's Adam Copeland's perspective on what could happen, and I like when characters share their feelings and talk about what they see about things, because perspective is something that we don't talk enough about in pro wrestling. Like, we always want our characters to you either want truth or lies, right? Either they're lying to you or they're telling the truth to you. We rarely talk about perspective, whereas when Obi-Wan Kenobi put it in Return of the Jedi, a certain point of view, right?
Yeah.
And it's all about point of view when we talk about things, because that's reality. Reality is I see something happening and my brain thinks this. I'm going to express that. And you can sort of go, well, that's not the way the promotion told the story. Yeah, okay. But in fiction, we let characters tell the story through their experiences. And that promo segment to me was just perfect. Then Christian told him to go fuck himself, which I thought was just the greatest final line of promo ever, quite frankly.
Yeah. I thought it was great. And I thought, they did a good job. He has his mission statement out there. And then he talked about he wanted to team with Christian because of, like their history and everything. And that was kind of one of the reasons why he came there, so they could end their careers together. And they really they're setting up a feud now, but a return to the tag team later. Like, I think like now we're not only looking forward to the feud, but we're already looking forward to the eventual when they both come to their senses and become a tag team, because they already immediately started talking about the teams that they could go up against, FTR, the Young Bucks, and I think he said the Young Club too. I can't remember if he said them or not, but he just listed off the really good tag teams and just how they could go on a run. It's like, yeah, that would be awesome, but we got to do this feud first. And as we all know, Christian can play both babyface and heel very, very well. As can Edge. So I think that we have a lot to look forward to with this. Now, I get the complaints from a lot of the AEW fans and a lot of the AEW hardcores. This was aside from the cursing, this was, like this could have been on Raw. I think it was executed better than what you would normally see on Raw. But I think that just because these are two Attitude Era guys, like in their mid to late 40s, kind of having this super long promo to end it, I could see why you would connect the dots and say, well, that's WWE shit. I don't want that here. And I understand that, but I got to say, I still really enjoyed it, despite the fact that it was WWE shit on AEW.
No, I agree with what you're saying, because like, I'm a big example. I think people get mad when they see anybody with WWE pedigree on AEW doing anything that makes them think slave WWE. And then I remember I read somewhere someone's like, why can't it'd be better if Adam Copeland just ran out with no music and just beat people's ass? And I'm like, no, it wouldn't, because a lot of people complain. I mean, I use it on my Twitter. I think you saw it. So Jay White, right? When Jay White made his debut, we got the cha-ching, and then he ran out there and just beat up Ricky Starks, right? And we all said, oh, that was a shitty flat debut, because they didn't treat him like a star, right? They just rolled him out there. We're all supposed to know that it's Jay White. And then he just kind of is involved in something. They did absolutely nothing to build him up. Adam Copeland's debut, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard not to call this guy Edge. Adam Copeland's debut.
JD, can we just be the show that continues to call him Edge and never changes?
I'm fine with that.
I think that's what I would like. I think that's because he's going to be Edge again soon. Like, I don't think that he's really going to end his career here. I think that eventually we're going to be back to calling him Edge before too long.
He says he's going to be there for the 12th anniversary of Dynamite, and I don't think professional, especially Adam Copeland, is a liar, sir. He would never lie on the microphone. Anyway, what I liked about Edge's, I'll call him Edge, Edge's debut was that they treated him like a fucking star. We did get when I went in this on overtime, but we got the big entrance. They made him feel like a big deal, and you got the right reaction, and you set the tone from jump that this guy is a major star. It's taken months to rehab Jay White from a bad debut. So tell me, which is it going to be? I mean, like, just because WWE does stuff doesn't mean it's all bad. Like, we can take the good things they do and leave the bad things they do, right?
Right. Yeah. Not that. And that's the nuanced part of being a wrestling fan that I think people are having trouble coming to grips with, because if it was ever in WWE, that doesn't mean that it was always bad. Now, one thing that we're also having trouble coming to grips with, a lot of people like wrestling fans, because they're so tribalistic. And you know what I mean? So like when he was in WWE, he sucked. And so now, just because like his latest run wasn't very good, that means that now you can't now accept him and say that he was good, because if you do, you're being just an AEW homer. It's like, well, no, you know what I mean? Like, there's some players that go from one team to another and they just perform better in this team because they're in a different position, right? Totally. So just because the guy was in WWE and you didn't really care for his latest run, if he comes to AEW, that doesn't mean that he's automatically bad. You got to give him a chance to be good. So far, I've seen him in 2 appearances and I've liked both of them. If he comes out and he stinks to join up, I'm going to say that, right? But I'm not just being a homer because he's doing pretty good on AEW right now.
Well, I think this is like a lot of this doom and gloom is coming from Dave, right? Every time something comes over, Dave is like writing. I feel like Dave is warming up the AEW death knell every time he talks about it. They're gonna make big plays for all their stars. And part of me is like, okay, then they're going to have all the stars. And then those people are going to be unhappy because there's not enough TV time for all of them too. Like this is, and then you have a chance to elevate people that are still here, because not everybody is going to want to go over there. Like, I get so tired of like, well, it's WCW all over again. Dude, okay. If AEW is WCW, and let's start it from when Crockett buys the TBS spot in 1985, right? Right now we're in 1989. That's it. We're 4 years in. WCW had another 12 years, and their company was run like shit for the entirety of its existence. Like we have to stop drawing these parallels just because it makes convenient talk. And I'm not accusing Dave Meltzer of that because he's a smart guy, but I feel like he gets traumatized by the failure of WCW, so he has flashbacks and stuff like that.
Right. Well, because he saw it coming years in advance before WCW even saw it coming. And one of the things that he did, and I think this is one of the parallels that he's drawing, and Edge is a part of that, is that at a time when they were not focusing on WCW, when WCW was not focusing on Steve Austin and Cactus Jack, and what was Triple H's Terrorizing, and Vinny Vegas and the Diamond Stud, right? They were spending big money on Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Honky Tonk Man, Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude. Like they were bringing they brought over like Crush and just called him Brian Adams, and he did nothing for the, you know what I mean? So like that's the parallels, right? And then now we're starting to see like, hey, more of these like guys in their 40s in WWE, a lot of their contracts are coming up due, and WWE is not offering them the money that they want. There's a rumor out there about Sheamus. I don't know. Like his contract's coming up. Is WWE going to be able to keep Sheamus, and is Tony Khan going to be able to not sign him? Right? Because how much value does a Sheamus bring to your team? But the aura or the thought of bringing a guy that was once a big name in WWE, bringing him to your company, like is that's what they're kind of looking at. And that's what WCW did in the mid-90s. I think Tony Khan is doing a better job of it, and he's been far more effective at it. And the guys that he's brought over to his company, with a couple of exceptions, right, actually really want to be there and make that company better. Then there's like the little shitheads that came over. They started missing their girlfriends and their fiancés, and they found out Triple H was in charge, and they immediately started disrupting shit and wanting to go back. So you have those handful, but then you got Adam Cole, you got Bryan Danielson, you got, Edge seems to be like on board, like a team player. And I think there's more of those guys than there are, I'm just going to say it, Andrades and Malachi Blacks, that just kind of like came over and just wanted to leave immediately.
So that's true. Those guys are bad examples of like people you want to sign. So let's look at this. Like the historical comparison is bad because WCW, when they had all those guys, didn't really know what to do with them. But it wasn't like they weren't pushing guys. Who are the top guys? Like before Hogan comes over, their top guys are Sting and Vader, right? Those are WCW guys, and Sid.
Flair, yeah.
And Flair, like those are their guys. And the problem is they weren't drawing with their guys. They weren't drawing with anyone. Here's the dirty secret about it. People go, well, WCW couldn't draw in 1993. I want you to go back and look at where WWE was running Raws in 1993. They're running them in high school gyms.
High schools, yeah.
Like nothing in professional wrestling was drawing in the early 90s. So they're bad examples. Like those guys, and like you said, some of those guys aged out of WWF, and Vince cut them loose before their value was done. Hogan needed a fresh start. Hogan needed to get out. Savage is a different story. They proved there was a lot more life in Savage and Flair, right?
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, do we get Steve Austin? Do we get Mick Foley as we know him? Do we get those guys if they stay with WCW? I don't think we do, because the infrastructure there was not built to bring guys up, right?
Yeah.
And those guys had to taste some failure to achieve something. At the same time, right? Look how much better Kevin Nash and Scott Hall got when they came to WCW. They became much bigger stars in WCW. Kevin Nash was a failure as the world champion. And Scott Hall was pretending to be Al Pacino, pretending to be a Cuban guy.
Yeah, but Razor Ramon was great, and he was really
a
over as Razor Ramon. He was an upper level mid Carter. He was like Intercontinental title in the 1994. Could main event B shows, but he was like, oh, nobody fucking drew in that company.
But that's the thing, he wasn't even put in a position to draw. In WCW, they become draws as the outside.
Of course, yeah. No, they absolutely were bigger when they went back to WCW. When they left WWF and went back to WCW, absolutely. But I don't want to disparage Razor Ramon. I fucking used the Razor's Edge of my brother for years. You know what I mean?
Marvelous Me, man. What show is this? Like.
Love TNA. Yeah.
Come on. That's what we do. Like, we love Scott Hall. I'm just saying, those guys, everyone talks about Austin and everyone talks about Foley, how they didn't find success in WCW. Hall and Nash found much bigger success in WCW than they had in WWE.
Right. Well, but they got that partially because they came over as WWE guys, right? Using their WWE characters back in WCW. Now I understand the Diamond Stud started off, but he became more famous when he's in WWF, and then he became even more famous because of the way that they treated him, the way that they pushed him in the NWO that set the fucking world on fire.
Mike, it almost sounds like you're telling me that that moving between companies is better for talent and better for rest and better for the industry. Like,
yeah, but I think what you absolutely need that. But I think what you're ignoring is the parallel that Dave's trying to make. AEW is signing these overpriced WWE guys, right? I'm just trying to explain his side. While WWE seems to be focused on the younger stars that AEW have,
really?
Jade Cargill, and now there's going to be some other stars that are coming due towards the end of the year. And then, of course, they wanted the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. They couldn't get them, right? They brought over Cody at, whatever. But now I think what
young guy
Cody,
to see, 38-year-old Cody Rhodes.
That's why I said whatever. But I said now they're going to start going after the more up and coming talents that AEW has. Well, AEW is going to be transfixed on guys like Edge and Sheamus and maybe Drew McIntyre, those types.
So there's that's the assumption that who is the world champion in AEW, despite how the show's been playing out. Who's AEW's world champion? It's MJF.
Their worst drawing world champion, MJF.
He is their worst drawing world champion, but he's also an under 30 world champion. Yeah. Right. Like
you might draw on there when he's 35. We'll see.
You might. Like Rey Fenix is their international champion, that's actually become a title that means something in that company. Christian Cage has got the TNT title, something interesting, which is that's fairly new. That's been like 2 weeks.
But you mentioned Rey Fenix. Why is Rey Fenix the champion right now?
Because John Moxley got knocked unconscious.
Yeah. So he's not supposed to be the champion. That was an accident.
He's not supposed to be the champion.
John Moxley was supposed to be the champion.
John Moxley.
No, I'm not saying that Tony's not pushing his guys. He is. He's pushing it. Holy shit! Hold on. I forgot all about the comment section. We haven't had any. Hey, Scotty, welcome in, buddy. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Respect Christian Cage. Now, here's the deal, though: is the idea of WCW is that you come in and you push the old guys, and you ignore the mid carders who go to WWF and don't get pushed, right? Because that's pretty much what happened, right? Of the Radicals, none of those guys got pushed for 5 years, right? It took 5 years for those guys to become main eventers. So it wasn't like I know we like to rewrite history and say those guys jumped to WCW or jumped from WCW and they became an instant force. They jumped to WWF and got jobbed out their first night in the company and were forced to eat a lot of shit. They were forced to eat a lot of shit. So, this is the idea. The idea that everyone from AEW, they're going to take all of AEW's main event guys and bring them over. Well, what the fuck's going to happen in WWE when you get all these other guys that are already main eventers? Right? Yeah. That creates, I know that's what Dave is worried about. I get that, but that's not a recipe for success on the WWE side either. They're just going to sign all Tony's younger guys. Well, then what are they going to have with their younger guys too? Right? Now you got a bunch of guys who can't get pushed over there. Like that side gets ignored in this whole thing. And I just think that's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. And, WCW signing the, Hogan's and all those guys in 1994, and then kind of not focusing on Steve Austin and Cactus Jack.
That was a mistake.
Really, it was a mistake by WCW, but it really, really fucking worked for Steve Austin and Cactus Jack. You know what I mean? Like that was awesome. And then Triple H ended up coming over, I think, at the end of '94, but he was not really a guy that was there for very long.
No, he was a tag team.
He was Jean-Pierre Lafitte.
Jean-Pierre Lafitte. Jean-Pierre Lafitte was PCO. Jean-Paul Levesque was Paul Levesque.
Okay. I got mixed up. I have Impact. I have Impact on my brain.
But look at this. Okay, we talk about how WCW sent all these shit guys in 94. What happened in 95? Who did WCW bring in 1995? Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. Yeah. Like this is when WCW started, because WCW was the one who found all these great guys. A lot of them were from ECW, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them also came from Japan and Mexico, where dudes were paying their way. Chris Jericho, those guys all came in through WCW. So the problem was they didn't push them. Not in 95, they didn't push them in 97 and 98 when they should have. That was the mistake. But they did push a guy like Diamond Dallas Page and Bill Goldberg, guys who they built up. So it wasn't like they weren't pushing anybody other than those old WWE guys. They just weren't pushing the internet favorites, most of whom remained mid-carders until the mid-2000s.
Yeah, speaking like the Radicals are so funny, because you were saying they didn't get pushed until 5 years in. By they, you mean Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. The other
Yeah, because
guys
Dean
never got
Malenko,
pushed.
Barry
Yeah.
Sanders never got pushed at all. Dean
No,
Malenko
no.
was retired like a year in. Yeah,
I think Benoit got pushed pretty early on as kind of an intercontinental champion level and was doing that stuff. And then he became world champion in like 04, but even then, like that was more like a consolation prize world championship. But Eddie Guerrero got fired and then had to go work indies for a while and then got brought back and then eventually got pushed after he, swolled himself up to about 245 pounds.
It took Eddie eating some shit and taking a lot of steroids to get pushed. Like, and then that's the thing is Chris Benoit, it's a lateral move as far as the card goes from WCW. Now, granted, the guy was probably a lot happier, right? He was miserable in WCW. That's fine. But the narrative is that the Radicals jumped and became like superstars overnight. It was literal lateral moves for all those guys for years,
including Chris Jericho. He debuts up against The Rock that first night,
and then he's pushed way down.
Yeah, they pushed him way down the card, and he was just kind of yo-yoing.
Mm-hmm.
His entire WWE career, that it was like that. Like it didn't get into like he had that little world title reign in like 01, 02. Yeah, but then he didn't really get another good reign until 08, and that was the really good run where he was like the methodical, crazy world champion, and he was feuding with Shawn Michaels. One of my favorite feuds. I love that.
Oh, it was a great feud. It's one of the best things. It's like probably the best thing they did in that era. But he retired. He retired in 05 and came back. So that entire run, the entire original Y2J run, he is the guy that unifies the world title, which is a cool little side note. What was that? 02? 01? Yeah.
Yeah.
But was he ever treated? But like he wasn't treated like the world champion when he was there.
No.
He was just a dude hanging on to it. So Jean-Pierre Lebec can have a guy to beat when he gets back. Right?
Yeah.
They didn't really treat Jericho great. So it's like this myth that that all these WCW mid-carders went and found success and became phenomenal in WWE is myth. It's a myth. It's
really
heresy.
it was Kevin Nash. Probably when like 93 he comes over, right? And you got Steve Austin and you got Cactus Jack. And then those guys, became like mega, big time stars over there. But other than that, it was, more lateral moves than anything from most of those guys. Now Jericho did end up becoming a really big time main eventer, like I said, in 2008. And then he became like kind of because when you're around for so long and you're that upper mid card, occasional main eventer, they treat you kind of like a legend in that company. And then he carried that over to New Japan and then to AEW and kind of still carries that over. He's very much not a main eventer in AEW anymore, but he still kind of is treated as such. You know what I mean?
He's achieved that. Like they call him, he's like a legitimate legend. Like people know who Chris Jericho is. So like he's still a draw. He still gets attention. So I mean, like, and he's been absolutely worth every dime AEW paid for him. So I mean, if you have the right signees, and quite frankly, AEW got an influx of cash because they're not having to pay a certain contract. So
well, yeah, I mean, but I don't think Edge came over cheap, by the way.
No, I think it's trade. Trade.
Yeah. And I think it might be a little bit of they balance each other out. I'm sure.
We got some comments, man. We got some comments.
Yeah. Let's see. They were holding back the future.
Oh, John Muse.
From John Muse. Yeah.
He would know.
He would know.
He would know.
And then from name cannot be blank, similar to the narrative that Stone Cold became a major star immediately. I don't know that anybody ever said immediately because his story about
WWE says that immediately.
They talk about King of the Ring. He came in 95, but they tell the story pretty well of him coming in 95 as the ringmaster and saying that it sucked, and then he overcame that, and that's a big part of his story. I don't know that anybody ever says immediately.
No,
I don't think
they
you can Google. I don't think if you could put in your Google machine that WWE said Stone Cold immediately became a star once they were signed. They've never said that.
No, Blank's not talking about that. Blank specifically mentions the King of the Ring. The narrative in WWE is he cut the Austin 316 promo.
Oh shit!
And then is off to the races.
Yeah.
Right? What happened is he won the King of the Ring, and then in the next pay-per-view, SummerSlam, his ass is on the pre-show. That's how hot
against Yokozuna.
Against Yokozuna. So they clearly had eyes. Oh, we know this is the guy. We're gonna build him. Full of shit, man.
Yeah, no, you know what? Really, so King of the Ring was helpful, right? 96 King of the Ring, that was helpful. what really springboarded Stone Cold Steve Austin was Bret Hart when he came back saying, I want to work with that fucking guy, because they had been working together over the, previously, and he handpicked him as the opponent. That's what made Stone Cold. That's what made Stone Cold into the Stone Cold that we ended up seeing later. That's what made him into a megastar. But King of the Ring was helpful.
It was helpful. It was it's a character beat. It's a stop on the journey. The guy who I would compare the most to Steve Austin as far as a journey right now, and I'm not saying this guy is here, but we have a guy. Steve Austin was fired and had to discover himself again. When are we going to start talking about how WWE missed the boat on Swerve Strickland?
I think you and I talk about it every fucking week.
Every chance we get, but we're the only guys who ever do. They fired that guy. And not only did they fire that guy, Vince, the genius that Vince is, was going to put him in the tag team with Ashanti the Adonis and make Top Dollar the featured player for Hit Row.
Yeah.
Right? And then Swerve didn't want to go back. He's happy. And they've been building that guy slowly into a dude that, much like a Steve Austin, has taken time to reinvent himself. And we're still in the middle of that reinvention. Right? But it's starting to come together. That match last week with Hangman was something. And now this week on Super Tuesday, Title Tuesday, whatever the hell they're calling it.
Tittle Tuesday.
Titty Tuesday.
Titty Tuesday. Yeah, he's very likely to have the match of his life against Bryan Danielson.
Most people do.
Let's get into that a little bit. Swerve should win that, right? But isn't that for what title? Is that for a TNT title shot?
TNT title shot.
So are they going to do Swerve and Christian? I don't understand.
Okay. I was thinking about this, and John Muse is in the chat, so I'm wrong here. I'm sure he'll point it out to me. Because I love when he does that. I don't know what they're going to do with this. The fact that it's before the TNT title is intriguing. So let's be real. Does Copeland and Christian need the TNT belt to be a thing?
No, absolutely not.
No. So could Copeland cost Christian the TNT belt and put it on Swerve? Because Bryan Danielson doesn't really need it.
Am I just reading into too much that Swerve's the heel and so is Christian, and they're my two favorite heels on the show, and I just don't want to see them wrestle? It makes no sense to me.
Doesn't make sense to me either. But I mean, at the same time, I don't want him to lose to Danielson, right? Because he's on the come up. And again, Danielson beats everybody, and Swerve loses the big matches. Swerve over Hangman's his first big win, right? I feel like I don't want to stunt Swerve's growth, but I don't think Bryan Danielson needs the TNT belt either. It's very interesting. I don't know where they're going with it.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going with it, and I think that Swerve would make a fine TNT champion.
Especially if they're not ready to pull the trigger on him as a world champ yet.
Right, because I'm pretty sure they've already handpicked their next world champion. They already have that plan set in stone. I don't think it's going to be Jay White. I don't think it'll be Jay White, but they probably very likely already have that person picked out. And I don't think it's going to be Swerve, but I think by sometime next year that they should pick him.
I think that because again, I don't think you need to thrust the guy to the world title right away, because oftentimes that backfires, right? Look at Roman's first 5 world title reigns. I think easing a guy into the role is probably a good move. And I think we just started really getting Swerve moving up. I don't think he should jump right to world champion. I don't think Jay White should either, though. I would love to see Jay White as a champion. I don't know if he's ready yet. And here's the real problem is that MJF's title reign has taken such a shit. It's so unimportant right now. The title is so unimportant to what he's doing that I don't know what's going on. I love the show, but we're more agnostic on it than most of our network, but I find myself remarkably uninterested in what's going on with Adam Cole and MJF.
The Adam Cole thing with Roderick Strong completely jumped the shark for me this week whenever they first aired it, and the audio was bad. So you know what? We're going to air all 3 minutes of this fucking thing again with the audio correct. I was like, what are we doing? And
then did you listen to Dave's show this morning where he said that TBS fucked up the when it was recorded? So the vast majority of DVRs across the country didn't record Dynamite.
Yeah. So I'm sure the DVR numbers were down, and
that's why the numbers. They actually learned this too. Did you know that that it's something like 30% of those overnights are from DVRs?
Oh, for probably people watching it on delay,
delay.
From like,
Mhm.
because some people do like to watch the West Coast feed. So,
Yeah.
um,
So that fucked up their numbers big time this week.
yeah, they were way down, but I think you could probably throw that out because there was a lot of issues going on over at TBS. I made the joke that Jimmy Jacobs brought Access TV with him because, like, dude, Access TV like had these issues several times while we were doing our podcast where they would the audio would just be off one week and then the DVR just didn't record it, like they did, or the TV guide never had it listed for a couple weeks, so Impact had to go off and actually try to get people, like, get the narrative out there, like, hey, our show is still on, right? Because the TV guide was way off.
I can accept that from Access, but I'd like to think the people at TBS, the Turner Broadcasting Station, the first Superstation, the first cable station, know what they're doing. But I'm wrong because Warner Media ruins everything it touches and has for decades.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, I got a note here.
Yes.
So with our thing, we should actually take a look at our notes, JD. I did put some topics on. I put some topics on there. So Dave mentioned earlier this week that more stars, their contracts are coming due by the end of the year. I can't remember if it was on Wrestling Observer Radio or if it was in the newsletter, but he did state that more stars contracts keep coming up due at the end of the year. Let's fantasy book this thing. Who are we thinking stars that could come up at the end of the year and then actually would want out and go to WWE?
Well, it's not Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn. They resigned recently. By the way, those two
guys I'm talking AEW stars going
WWE
to
guys.
WWE, yeah.
By the way, those two guys are going to be thrilled if the rumor we heard today is real. Thrilled.
Wait, did I miss something? Because I am not hearing.
You told me this one because I'm not in the spot anymore. Somebody moving to the other side who doesn't like the tag team champions, who don't like him either.
Yeah, more on that later. Talk about that on overtime, probably.
More on that on overtime.
Yeah.
More on that in overtime. So who's coming up? I imagine maybe Starks.
Starks, I think Starks is a Cody guy. I could see him absolutely heading over to WWE. He's a little on the small side for them, but that stuff isn't as important as it used to be.
I can see him not getting pushed there.
Yeah.
He's a great promo and he's a pretty good match guy, but I like Ricky Starks a lot, but I think he's vastly overrated by people.
Yeah. So the thing with WWE, it seems like they're going over the top and pushing AEW folks.
It does.
Like the way they did with Cody Rhodes, because they're trying to send a signal to AEW's talent.
How's that going to work with your current talent 6 months to a year down the line, with the guys who stayed loyal to you, with the guys who came up in your system who are ready for a push? I'm sure that's going to go over well in the locker room.
Seems like it's working just fine right now with Cody.
Who's over? Cody Rhodes is different. Cody Rhodes is a different story.
And
Cody Rhodes
they're welcoming
Ricky Starks.
I know, yeah, Ricky. If Ricky Starks gets pushed over, Otis, we might have a fucking issue. I don't know, but
dude, I'm not talking Otis.
Jade Cargill. It seems like that's going to work out pretty well.
Jade's a different story because she's just like custom made for them. Her signing with AEW in the first place was a weird move, but at the same time, let's be honest, she's a very mediocre worker, right? How well was she fit in the Performance Center? Probably not. I don't know. She probably is middle of the pack, right? She's in her early 30s. Like she becomes a star through AEW and is able to leverage that into a better WWE deal than she probably would have gotten if she decided. Definitely than she would have gotten if she decided in the first place. Because if she'd have been in WWE to jump, she'd just be coming out of NXT right now, or still in NXT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
if we're talking about all kinds of major, okay, so who could they be? Who are these big time AEW guys? Starks.
Name that comes to mind, Daniel Garcia, maybe. Maybe
that's not a major WWE guy. I mean,
no, it's not a major guy, but he's a guy, but not a major guy. But he's been in some stories and some big matches there.
If Ricky Starks is a Cody Rhodes guy, Garcia is a Jericho guy. So if we assume that people just follow their mentors and that line of thinking, like they re-signed Moxley, they re-signed the Elite guys. I imagine Swerve has at least another year on his contract.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Andrade is probably coming up eventually, right? Andrade, but he had some injury time on his deal, but I don't think he's re-signed. Maybe he's one of those guys. I don't know if you're WWE, do you even take Andrade back
to make Charlotte happy? That guy's not
happy. Are they
still
anymore. Together?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I
I
have no
assume
idea,
so.
yeah.
They're married or
Yeah.
something. I assume they were still together. I don't. That guy's not happy anywhere he goes.
No.
Like he was miserable in WWE, he was miserable in CMLL, he was miserable in AEW. Like at some point, you have to look around and say, maybe it's me.
He was telling New Japan to fuck off, saying he was going to go to Nova too.
That's true. That did
Yeah.
happen. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Malachi Black, like he don't want. I think maybe
Yeah.
he made, or did he have a
This-
big? I don't know. I forget.
This is an interesting name. Dobby the Brain Heenan, Patreon subscriber, says,
Wardlow.
what about Wardlow? I think Wardlow is like, if you were to like pick the perfect person from AEW to go to WWE, Jade Cargill and Wardlow are the top two names that come to mind that
He's
would probably
35.
work over there. He is, but you know, they started pushing Damian Priest at like 38 and LA Knight is fucking 40 and they just started pushing him. So I think that their standards have changed on age a little bit, and he doesn't look like he's 40 and he still moves or 35 and he still moves really well.
No,
So I could see them still wanting to push him.
okay, but LA Knight's a really good promo, and Damian Priest is a good worker, and I think I don't think it's crazy to say he's much better than Wardlow. Like maybe they do want to
Yeah.
push Wardlow, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like honest to God, if you lose Wardlow, okay.
I honestly, like when he came, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. I just kept forgetting he was in the company. We just hadn't seen him in a long time.
I think he's
And,
one-dimensional. I think he's very one-dimensional. They tried to give
I-
him some actual character and personality this summer. It didn't work. You know, the
No.
whole thing, the hair thing was dumb. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, like he's very one note.
I had this conspiracy theory that he was just out off TV because he wanted to grow his ponytail back. But he came back with no
Samson.
ponytail.
But his hair is longer. He has not cut it since then.
Yeah.
I think this might be. I mean, like who? Any main eventers? I mean, I don't think Swerve is leaving. You know, I don't think maybe Keith Lee. I don't. Nobody seems.
I don't think. Honestly, I think that AEW is kind of keeping him around to be nice, you know, because they want to fulfill the contract. But
Yeah.
I don't think that he's bringing anything to AEW, and I don't think he would bring anything to WWE at this point.
I know there was talk of Hook. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
maybe
that name was being thrown around a while back. Yeah.
I forgot about that. Maybe Hook fits in better in NXT. You know,
Yeah.
he's a person that suffers from being in the big time too soon. He is a guy who needed more time sometime in the indies to be developed. Right? Like NXT is gonna push Brian Pillman just to show that they can, and I don't think it's gonna work personally. I've seen that guy for too long in too many places.
Yeah, we saw him in MLW, then we saw him in AEW. I just don't know that I think that we're probably going to see more of the same. And he's like in his 30s now too, right? So
Like
he's not
31.
exactly IO Productions, the new bidding wars of 2024. MJF, I get the feeling MJF is signed long term. Like I know that they kept putting that rumor out there that he wasn't, but I feel like he is.
I think I was talking with Muse about this way back in Double or Nothing 2022. This whole thing with him, the walkout, it's all work, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you go in this deep with him without having him signed, right? Unless Tony is that trusting and that, foolish, quite frankly, but at the same time, if he is come up, I mean, he's a young guy that had your world title, but he's kind of been your lowest drawing champion, both in terms of television ratings and in terms of ticket sales. Like granted, I don't think the booking's been great, but he controls a lot of his own booking and it hasn't been great.
He's very hands-on with what he's doing. And what he's doing seems like he's auditioning for WWE Raw to me. Adam Cole's injury. So it looks like he's going to have surgery, or is this a work? I think it's legit.
I think it's legit. I questioned it at first. I questioned it at first, and here we are. It sounds like his ankle basically exploded. I know Brian Alvarez couldn't wrap his head around the idea that he hadn't had surgery yet. When I'm like, dude, have you ever had surgery? It takes a long time for the swelling to go down in certain injuries. Like you don't get. It's like only if something is like life threatening or really, really bad, you get surgery like immediately. If you need a shoulder surgery, you could be waiting months for something like that.
For both of my shoulder surgeries, I waited like 3-4 months. Yeah.
I mean, that's
and then with Brock Purdy's elbow, he had the UCL tear, the Tommy John surgery, and he had to wait. He had their injury in January. He didn't get the surgery till March. So I think that's like a pretty typical thing. So yeah. Oh, John Muse says Wardlow's world doomed him. That is a pretty dumb catchphrase. That's super cheeseball.
It was. Roman Reigns recovered from suffering succotash. It's a matter of how much you want to commit to someone and like keep trying to rebuild them.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad though. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. So we got AEW versus NXT. We got Title Tuesday coming up. NXT, they're throwing everybody out. I think they're bringing over Cody Rhodes. He's going to be on the show, and Paul Heyman is going to be on the show. And John Cena is going to be on the show. And is Becky on that one? I think Becky's there.
Yeah,
too.
Becky's on that one. Becky's been like a regular in NXT.
Yeah. Her match with Tiffany Stratton was pretty good this weekend.
I will say this. AEW is cold. Yeah. And NXT is they've actually, for the first time, they really like tried to beat AEW. If they can't beat AEW with all this problem, if they can't, there's a problem. And it might, I mean, like everyone's kind of like said, oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I mean, they clearly have doubts. Right.
They don't want to leave it up to chance, right?
No, they're trying.
And AEW is loading up their show. They're having Edge's debut match, right? Against Lucha Suckass. And then they got Bryan Danielson versus God, we just talked about who? Swerve, yeah. Sorry, I lost my brain for a second. Bryan Danielson versus Swerve. They're going to do that match. So they're loading up their show as well, and I think they'll probably have some title matches and some other big matches. But AEW versus NXT. Here's my official prediction. Ratings are stupid. I don't know why we still talk about them, but it's really the only numbers that we get our hands on. And then they're given out by independent third parties. So it's not like if it was just the company, then they'd have 10 million viewers a week if you just get the number straight from the company. But you're getting it from an independent third party, so it's the only thing that we got. So I'm guessing that NXT will win in total viewership, and AEW will win the demo, and both companies' fans will say that they won.
So late 2019 is back.
Yes.
Again.
Yes. I feel like that's where it's going to go. I think a lot of young people who are very good at monitoring when AEW is going to be on are going to know that it's on Tuesday. And the old people who are habitual watchers are not going to remember that it's on Tuesday, and they're just not going to watch. But then the NXT people that watch every week on Tuesday, like they're still going to get their 850, 900,000, and probably like 750, 725 for AEW, but they'll still have a higher demo rating. That's what I'm thinking.
It's funny because the dorks from Fightful, one of my least favorite websites, said today they posted because NXT has beaten AEW in the demo. They're comparing, or in the ratings, they're comparing day to day. And NXT had more total viewers, but AEW had like beaten by like 0.6 in the demo. And I'm like, we're doing it's been 5 years and you guys still don't know how this works.
Yeah. And honestly, that demo rating, like 18 to 49, I think a lot of the networks are moving off of that rating anyway. I think the 25 to 54 is starting to become more prevalent in moving to the Canada stuff. And that's the news demo, right? And that's been kind of a bigger money demo lately anyway, because streaming 18 to 49 people are now streaming their shit. So they will watch on the internet versus watching on television. So they're more likely to skip commercials.
Do you watch on the internet? Do you stream?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. 100%. And I have for a long time. So
me too. Almost a decade.
Yeah. Yeah. Here we got a couple more comments, and then I want to get to our very special guest, and then we'll just have her join us. We'll have her join us the rest of the show. But John Muse says WWE will add to Tuesday. I don't think they're done. John, I think you're agree with you. I think they'll set something up this Friday and set something up on Monday, and have some big announcements coming up. Io, Patreon subscriber, says the Nimrods of the IWC have ruined the fun of Tuesday.
That's what they do. Stop listening to those people. They're dumb.
Yeah. But all right. So we got a very special guest. She is from Fight Game Media. She's the co-host with Mel Gray of the Detroit Lions, the Powerbombshells podcast. One of our favorite podcasts. These are our sisters in arms. Hold on, JD. Sam, do you got your stopwatch ready? This is a female on the show.
Hold on,
I want to make sure. Let me get your stopwatch ready so you can record how long we're having a female on the show. I don't want to get in trouble with you.
I'll do it.
I know you will.
Fucking A,
better
you better
fucking
do it.
better.
You know what's funny? Before I came on here, Kojima liked where I timed their match from Wrestle Dream because there were women in it, so I timed it,
Yeah.
and I just saw it come across my phone. Satoshi Kojima liked your tweet, and it was that tweet.
Yeah.
Not the one of him tonight on ROH, but the one where I
Yeah.
timed his match.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I wonder if you had any idea what the hell that meant.
Well, that's probably what. Yeah, he's probably like, I don't know why does it say hashtag women's wrestling?
There's my name.
Yeah.
I'll click like.
He had a really this was like, because Kojima's an older guy now, and he's kind of getting into that like cute old man phase, even though he can still knock the shit out of you. Where he said he was very happy to team with the ladies that he teamed up with in his match, but he was too shy to ask them for a picture. And I thought that was pretty cool.
It was cute, and then he put like the little sweat droplet emojis, and I was like, I don't know if he means it in the way that most people would interpret that. I was like, he's an old guy. He probably doesn't know what that means.
He's a 50-year-old Japanese man. I mean, like the fact that he's doing any of this stuff is astounding, quite frankly.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's great.
But Sam, we're excited to have you. Before we get started, why don't you go ahead and plug the Powerbombshells? Tell us where we can find it and what you guys talked about this past week.
So you can find the Powerbombshells on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. We are live every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. This past Sunday, we did our pre-show, which is when we're on. Since we're on at 1 o'clock, we're on much earlier than the usual pre-shows for pay-per-views. So we just stick to our 1 o'clock slot and made it our pre-show. So we talked about that, and then of course we talked about Jade Cargill officially signing with WWE, and how they are treating her like the #1 draft pick, and it's a whole bunch of pomp and circumstance, mostly a middle finger to Tony, I think is what I mean. Good for Jade. She reaps all the benefits of it, but I am concerned of how she's going to be treated in 6 months to a year, because we've seen the way they treated Mercedes and Trinity and other women, and even they pretended like they cared about the women to get Ronda Rousey, and then she came, and then they're like, we don't care anymore. So.
I think with Jade, they are going to push her to the moon for as long as they possibly can, because they want to send a signal over to other AEW free agents that if you're willing to leave them and come over here, we will make you some money and we'll treat you better than they treated you over there. I think that they're very intentional with what they're doing. Yeah,
our question was, if you're somebody in AEW and you're watching this, do you look at this and think you're going to get be treated like Jade or treated like Brian Pillman?
Brian Pillman's getting treated.
He is good, now. He is, but he'd been there in the Performance Center for a month. There was no big thing about him until like last week. They finally sent out the press release through USA Network, and they've done the little vignettes. He was there for weeks, and nobody knew, and nobody cared.
Sam, I don't want to be the one to tell you this, but he's fucking lucky to be there.
Oh no, I'm no, I'm right there with you. So that's why my point. If you're an AEW talent looking at that, like, what do you think you're going to be like Jade and Cody, or
here's where Brian? I expressed this before you jumped on the show. If I'm in WWE and I've been loyal, I didn't jump to AEW. I've been cool, and all of a sudden you're going to start pushing these AEW people over me. How does that? I mean, I tell you how that's going to play, because I saw that in the in the old Monday Night Wars, and like, this is great. They're gonna start getting dissension, and people will go the other way. This is going to be healthy for both companies. This is a good thing.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
No matter what the internet says.
They're dumb. They're idiots.
They
fucking
are
morons.
So, Sam, you and JD had a bet. Will you guys let me in on this bet? What was this bet about, and who won the bet?
Well,
you were on the show, but we'll recap.
I'm just trying to recap, JD. I'm introducing.
I realized that when I was getting ready for the show, we first started talking about this like a year ago. I think it was last October.
Is it that long ago?
I think so.
I thought it was like 6 months. I didn't know it was that long ago. It was
our 100th episode of BFI, I believe.
How do you remember that?
I just remember because it was like right before. I kept putting it off, and then the holidays came up, and then and it just kept getting pushed off. So I think it was like a year ago.
So Sam's a big Grey's Anatomy fan. We were discussing this. I don't think Mike and I have ever watched an episode between us.
Not a single goddamn one. Yeah.
No, but we mentioned Patrick Dempsey.
Yes.
And then Mike and I, having brains perpetually stuck in 1994, joked about Can't Buy Me Love, and Sam had never seen it. So we're like, "Oh, you have to watch Can't Buy Me Love," and it's become a bit of a bit between the three of us now. So Sam, I told Sam that if she finally watched this movie, I would listen to a country playlist. The terms were set on her show, by the way. I jumped on Powerbombshells.
You did.
And we set the terms for this, and I have to listen to an appropriate country music playlist. She went and cleaned it up so I could play it in class and make all my kids suffer. Actually, some of them probably like it. So
those poor children. That's messed up.
We were trying to. Yeah, I had some songs on there, and I was like, wait, if he plays this for his class, I was like, this song is a little inappropriate, and I was like, this one is also not appropriate. So I'm like having to take songs off, and then there are other songs, and I was like, I definitely can't put that on there. So, and I made sure that there was at least one Dixie Chick song for Mike Gilbert.
Which one was it? Was it Wide Open Spaces? Was it Earl Had to Die?
I wanted to do the song I really wanted to do was one called Sin Wagon. However, because he was going to play it in front of his students, I figured that was not appropriate. And Sam,
are you familiar with White Zombie?
Yeah.
So I'm in the middle of, I have a playlist going. This is about a month ago in class. I have a 90s playlist going, and I'm at a kid's desk at the back of the room, away from my computer, helping him with a Photoshop project. And the opening of More Human Than Human comes on, and I could not get to my desk fast enough to stop the giggles from coming out of a bunch of freshmen. And from that moment on, it's only been instrumentals.
Smart move.
Yeah.
So yes, it can't get worse than that.
On Spotify they do have clean playlists. Like you can just type in, rock clean. Like when I'm lifting in the garage, my kid likes to run in, and so sometimes if I'm not using my headphones, if I just have my speaker, I just put rock clean, and then it'll be.
I let the algorithm do it for me and suffer the penalty.
That's funny. So what country songs did you subject him to?
Well, I had to, because the conversation started when you were talking about Chris Stapleton. So I had to put Chris Stapleton. I mean, if it was my way, I probably would just put a whole bunch of Chris Stapleton songs. But I started out with Tennessee Whiskey because I think that's the song that most people know by Chris.
Yep.
And then, of course,
it's most popular.
Yeah, it is. And then he did it's a cover. It was a song. Came out. I forget who sang the original in the 60s or 70s. And then he remade it. And then he did. It was either the Grammys or a country music awards show, and Justin Timberlake came and sang it with him, and then they got really popular. I mean, that song got over. But yeah, so Tennessee Whiskey I put on there. I tried to put. I realized 90s country is a lot of love songs. It's a lot of cheesy stuff. So I tried to mix in some upbeat stuff, so there wasn't a whole bunch of slow stuff. I did put some Johnny. So I did put Johnny Cash on there though.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Johnny. I mean, everybody likes Johnny Cash. Yeah. Did you put "She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy"? Because I want to subject him to that one.
No, okay. I did not.
That's a
I
song.
probably should have. It is a song.
She thinks my tractor's sexy. It really turns her on.
Shut up.
Yes, that is a song.
No,
JD. I'm telling you, that's a real fucking
it's
song.
By Kenny Chesney. Yeah, it's by Kenny Chesney, and it was extremely popular.
Really?
That's one of his biggest songs. Still, people, they will still play that on the radio. The song is. Yeah.
I got my cousin who worked at a country radio station for years, Joe, in the chat saying David Allan Coe. I don't know. I don't know if we could do that one, but so you subjected JD to a bunch of country songs.
Yes, and then also before we got to the movie, there's one more thing I subjected him to. We talked about how Travis Tritt had a trilogy of videos that traumatized me when I was probably 11 years old when those songs came out. They were the videos are very sad, and I was looking for them to send to JD. And the first one apparently is not on YouTube. It's all live versions. The second one is, but somebody made a trilogy and put all 3 videos in one 15-minute clip. So I just sent that to JD. It was like,
okay.
You could do that, but God forbid you post any New Japan highlights.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could have just shared with it. I have a country classic rock playlist on Spotify. I could have just shared it. But
no, that's not fun.
So I think
Sam had to twist the knife herself.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you think of Can't Buy Me Love? This is one of my all-time favorite movies. Yeah, because we've already lost half the audience, but talking about goddamn country music. So
I really liked it. I knew going into it that it was going to be very cheesy, very 80s, obvious tropes and jokes that you can't get away with telling today. Inappropriate terms for certain groups of people. You can't use those terms anymore. And so, but it was still it was dated, but in the sense that it's still like, it wasn't like too, I mean, some of it was outdated, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a cute movie. It was very obvious, like obviously what was going to happen and the plot point and stuff like that, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. Nikki watched it with me, and I think she enjoyed it too. Yeah, I mean, I think we were both, because there were certain things that we just like laughed at, and because we were talking about like the clothes and like the old mall stuff, and then like when they use one of the terms that you don't use anymore, we were both like, we both kind of cringed a little, like, oh, that just because it sounds so out of place now.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't think about it when we were watching it as kids, but then as you get older and you realize like, oh, wow, yeah, you really can't say that word anymore. That's kind of wild. And I do love showing young people 80s movies because of just how inappropriate they are. And just like watch them melt a little bit and then squirm in their seat. And then they come away was like, you know what? It's still really good, even though it's your time and place is everything, right?
Dude, right, exactly. And it just reminds me of like when I was growing up, my cousin and I used to watch Dirty Dancing all the time. And then it wasn't until we were older that we realized like what was happening in the movie, because there's like a really big taboo topic. And we were just like, completely went over our head as children. All we cared about was like, we used to, my cousin and I used to dress like baby. Like we would wear the denim shorts and the white tennis shoes and stuff. And like, I used to have a Johnny Castle poster on my wall. I had a Dirty Dancing poster on my wall. I had a Dirty Dancing t-shirt. So yeah. And then we watched it and I still watch it all the time when it's on TV. But yeah, I remember when I watched it for the first time as older, and I was like, how in the world did our parents let us watch this? Like we had no clue what was happening.
You know, what that movie was for me was Porky's. Sam,
I was just gonna say that.
Sam, don't watch Porky's.
No, don't.
I have not watched it. I know what it is, but I have not watched it.
Yeah, never watch that. That's not for you.
We're talking about pretty tame 80s movies. And I was literally gonna say we didn't tell her to watch Porky's.
No,
like, it could have been worse.
It could have been way worse. Like,
yeah, and like I love like the John Hughes like 80s movies. Like, of course, those are like.
16 funny. Candles and all those 16, are great.
Yeah.
That's really offensive, actually. That is not aged well.
Oh yeah, Long Duck Dong will that'll probably get us in trouble, huh? Okay, never mind.
But I mean, like, it's funny, in the early 80s, stuff was way harsher than the stuff by the end of the decade. Like Porky's is like 82, and I look at some of this, I'm like, these are supposed to be high school kids. Like, there's some raunchy shit going on in that movie.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. Like I cannot imagine. So Sam, you did your part. You finally watched Can't Buy Me Love. I will think of another movie to recommend for you.
Okay.
But since we got you here,
I
did not, Sam, I didn't even tell you this. This is what we're gonna do now. Okay, are you ready?
Okay.
We are going to have you a part of our bad tweets segment. Are you down?
Yes, I am.
We got to get a graphic for this so we can cut.
We need a graphic. We need an intro. We need to do all that stuff. So let me get my share screen. So thank you everybody that has been using the hashtag bad tweets and have been tagging me and JD in your bad tweet suggestions. I've been bookmarking these bad boys. So we are going to go up to our first bad tweet, tagged to me or sent to me by Ryan Frederick of
the Wrestling Observer newsletter.
Wrestling Observer newsletter, and of course Fight Game Media. This one comes from Melton Dyer at Beach. I'm not going to say, didn't you notice that Adam and Christian's segment was similar to the Bloodline segment when Jimmy hugged Roman in the same way? Everything AEW does is copy and paste from WWE with a few differences, but Adam's idea was copy and paste.
I hate it here.
This is a man who has never seen I have a friend who had never seen The Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
And then he watched The Godfather like as an adult and said, it's kind of derivative. And I'm like, no, actually everything is derived from it. Like this movie set the tone for everything that you've seen since, and everyone has ripped it off. This is literally this tweet. It's a fucking hug. I can't do the segment.
People, dude, like there's a tag team in AEW where their entire fucking gimmick is built around hugging each other, the best friends.
Right.
Like, the Bloodline did not invent the goddamn hug, everybody. Come on.
And they've been doing the hug since like 2015 on the Indies.
In fact, Edge and Christian did the hug in the Royal Rumble just a couple of years ago together.
They sure did.
That's what it played off of.
Yes.
Long-term storytelling.
Long-term storytelling.
The segment's off to a great start. Let's keep this going.
Bad tweets. This comes from at JobberNation TV.
Oh, this guy.
Oh God, that account is
Yep.
blocked. I do not
Yeah.
follow.
neither do I, but somebody
do
said
I.
this to me. Said, if I'm WWE, I would seriously consider removing Edge from the Hall of Fame ASAP. Hashtag AEW Wrestle Dream.
That's John Cena face is perfect because that is literally the face I had when I read that. Going, is this fucker this stupid?
Yeah,
And the
I'm like,
answer is
are
yes.
is this just an engagement tweet or do they like legitimately believe this?
I think
It's hard to tell.
It's definitely an engagement tweet because he's a paid blue check, and
Well, this
you
is
can
true.
get money back. You can get money
Mhm.
back now that you're a paid blue check. In fact, I strongly considered being a paid blue check again, and then I realized they raised the price to $11. So no, I'm not going to be a paid blue check. But I did consider it because I was like, maybe our links will get out there better. But no, I'm not willing to do that.
I want to, for the record, Jimmy Snuka murdered someone, was convicted,
Right.
was found guilty in a court of law, still in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, look at how many terrible people. I mean, Vince McMahon. I mean,
Well, he's not in the
Yeah.
WWE Hall of Fame.
no,
but
he's
he
not.
is,
But he's,
he
but
is
he
the
will
WWE
be.
Hall of
Hey
Fame.
guys, Sonny just got sentenced to 26 years in prison, still
Sonny.
in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Great example.
She did.
Yeah. All right. Oh, it messed up my scroll. Hold on just one second. Okay. This one, this one's from Gifted Money. He sends it over. I said,
Oh God, this guy.
yeah, Drainmaker, seriously, who in the past decade has bombed harder than Edge in terms of drawing power? This is embarrassing. So this is a tweet from 2021, right? And then fast forward, life comes at you fast.
Yeah.
Rated R superstar Adam Copeland, baby, what a sensational debut! He fucking loves Adam Copeland. I thought that's very much the Mike Gilbert hates Richard Sherman because he plays for the Seahawks, but loves him because he's on the 49ers. That's very much what that is.
Yeah, somebody else did that. Some other account did that with Jade. It was talking about how she needed to learn. Oh, I think it was that Gareth account because I have them blocked, but somebody screenshot it, and I think he was talking about how a few years ago it's like Jade's terrible, can't wrestle, blah blah blah, and then it's like, welcome to the team. What team? You're not part of the team. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Here comes another one from a perennial piece of shit. Zero news. Looks like Edge is either staying with WWE or retiring. Cry about it, you AEW marks. He really fucking nailed that one, didn't he?
Yeah.
Zero.
Idiot.
Zero.
That's why they're blocked. Well, plenty of reasons, but that's one of them.
And here's one from the reason why this all got started.
The inspiration. We were going to call this the Gearys.
Yes, this is at the Raj Giri. So football it is, but a lot of those matches could be pretty damn great. But from a marquee standpoint, it's one of the weaker cards they've ever had.
What the hell? Just say you don't watch AEW and go.
This is Raj Giri is proof that one need not be smart to be a millionaire. Like this dude sold, I think Indian Dating Online or something like that was his website, sold it for millions. He's a wealthy guy, but boy, is he a dipshit.
Yes, he is very much a dipshit.
Mhm.
Hey, do you guys want to watch Tony Khan, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H have a conversation?
Sam, have you seen this yet?
So that's how we're going to
have
do this, Sean. That's the
my
kind of game we're
friend
going to
has
play.
found it
I
and
literally
has sent
so that's
some
how we're
of them to the group text, and yeah, they're interesting.
All right, so this is a conversation between Tony Khan, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels. This is regarding, I believe, Title Tuesday. Here we go.
going to do this, Sean. That's the kind of game we're going to play. I literally just got Edge, and you're out there calling the whole fucking Avengers on me.
Business is business, my guy. I don't even know why you're having a Dynamite on Tuesday. If you're trying to fight us, we're going to fight back.
Now, I know this bum ass ain't talking. You shut the fuck up, Hunter, with your Raw shows, putting us to sleep, barely featuring any fucking women wrestling in the ring.
That was
Remember
for
that
Sam?
one time when Undertaker said that Shawn Michaels was better than you in the ring? Well, he can do this booking shit better than you ever will as well.
Hey, get off my mans like that. First of all, your women's champion can't even take a German suplex. Why are you talking?
that was pretty good. That was from at Julian Weeks. He posted that. So so that was a good tweet segment. And here's our last good tweet. So that there's a national alert. This comes from bodyslam.net. Yeah, national alert. So everybody got the text on their phone. JD, you want to tell your story of when you got your text on your phone?
I was proctoring the PSAT test, and we got emails saying, do not have your phone on. There's going to be an alarm at 1:20 p.m. So I turned my phone off, and then I heard some dipshits not with it off in the hallway. It went crazy. So I waited 10 minutes, and I turned my phone back on. where it promptly got the notification, scared the shit out of the kids taking the test. I quickly turned my phone off, or so I thought.
Oh,
and
no.
I got another alarm 2 minutes later and freaked all the kids out. So then one more time, I turned my phone off, set it aside, and then the guy who runs the PSAT sent an email 15 minutes later saying that the alarm has come and gone. Thank you, everybody, for keeping your phones off. I went, oh, we're good now. So I turned my phone back on, where it promptly threw another alert out. One more time, I scared the shit out of the kids. And one of my wrestlers in the class, he looked at me and goes, JD, man. And I just had to go, I'm sorry.
So I was on a plane in Seattle, getting ready to come back here to Hawaii, and we're all loaded on, and we're waiting to start taxiing, and all of a sudden, everybody's fucking phones go off at the same time, and I'm not fucking with this. I thought some shit was going down because I had no idea that this stuff was going to happen. I start unbuckling, and then I look at because I'm getting the fuck off of this plane, and then I look at my phone. It's like, oh, this is just a test of the emergency broadcast system. I was like, why you got to make it so goddamn scary?
Did you see that what was happening? Well, I knew about it like a couple of days before because, there were a couple of reasons. I saw some tweets. They were telling people who are in domestic violence situations who have phones to like turn them off because if can still vibrate and stuff like that. So, but then I saw it because apparently there's a conspiracy theory that the warnings was going to trigger some kind of nanoparticles in people who are vaccinated and essentially turn us into zombies.
You know what? I think that might have happened because after I got off of that.
Did you read the tweets?
Yeah,
no, I saw like some scans of it, and then like somebody from Huffington Post put like there were apparently there were like 4 conspiracy theories and one about all of this, and I was like, well, I should be a super zombie because my phone, my work phone, and my sister's phone all went off at the same time, and I was like, I should be like a super zombie. My dog was not a fan of it at all. She was taking a nap and she glared at me like I did it. But
well, I'll tell you what, I walked into my first period class this morning and for a moment I looked at the kids and thought maybe it worked because I saw a bunch of dead-eyed teenagers at 7:30 in the morning.
Just that needed time to incubate.
Yes.
All right. So to end the segment, we have the national alert. This comes from bodyslam.net. Their national alert says, they say that all men are created equal, but you can look at me and you look at Samoa Joe and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50% chance of winning, but I'm a genetic freak and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beating me. And then you add Kurt Angle to your mix. Well, your chances of winning drastically go down. See, 3-way at sacrifice, you got a 33 1/3 chance of winning, but I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even going to try. So Samoa Joe, you take your 33 1/3 chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 1/3 chance of winning at sacrifice, but then you take my 75% chance if we was to go one-on-one, and then add 66 2/3 chance. I got a 141 2/3 chance of winning at sacrifice. Senor Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at sacrifice.
This is the greatest promo ever. You know what the most amazing part about that entire thing is? Scott Steiner was an academic All-American at the University of Michigan, legit.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And as we know, he is the good brother, and we still like Scotty Steiner, so we still accept him.
Always
always has been. Hey, Sam, thank you for joining us for Bad Tweets. We really enjoyed having you. Go ahead and throw another plug for the Powerbombshells on the Fight Game Media Network.
Yeah, so we are on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel live every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. This week we've got a special guest coming on, so I don't know if we have revealed who that is yet, so I won't say, but I will definitely say you should check it out. It is somebody, I will say, in the wrestling media. And
Scott Steiner.
I should have Scott Steiner. Somebody hook us up and get Scott Steiner on the show. We'll be live this Sunday at 1:00, talking about some Title Tuesday predictions, and we're gonna. There's all. The Wrestling Revolver. They've got their Women's Grand Prix show, which it's a big women's tournament that they're doing, which looks really cool. So we're going to talk about that too. And so come hang out with us every Sunday at 1:00. And yes, I know NFL is on, but you can turn your TV on in the background because that's what I do.
I live in Chicago. Football season's over.
Yeah.
I mean, it's over
they
here
won
too.
Tonight. Hey,
it's still baseball season.
they got their first win of the season tonight as we were on this podcast.
They're mathematically eliminated already.
Yeah. Hey, guys, head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show, where we're going to keep the conversation going. We're going to do some overtime after this is over, release it at some point this weekend. I'm also going to be coming back with a Brace for Impact. I'm going to be talking about Josh Alexander versus Will Ospreay coming up at the Bound for Glory Fallout show, plus the AEW Impact Super show that's happening in Mexico is coming up. Some new names announced for Turning Point. Lots of stuff's happening over in the Impact universe, so we'll catch us over there. We'll be back. I think overtime is going to be on Monday. One day we'll release overtime on Monday, where we're going to be talking about the rise and fall of MLW on the Reels Network, and I have some inside details as to exactly why that went the way that it went, and exactly what's going on. Some stuff that MLW doesn't even know, because nobody told them. So I'm gonna be talking about that on overtime, and then plus we're gonna talk a little bit of CM Punk possibly heading over to WWE and when his start date could be. So we got all of that. Hold on, Joseph. Did MLW ever rise? No.
The world of MLW never sleeps.
Yeah, it never sleeps. It never stops. But hey, guys, thank you everybody for checking out our show. Oh, also please head over to the Mike and JD Show YouTube channel. I really appreciate that. All right, and then until next week, everybody. Oh, hold on, let me get my outro. Until next week, everybody. Mahalo.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. Make no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. Make no rain from the track when we.
Hola, hola, my name is Ricardo. I am the host of the Lucha Jovers podcast here in the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. We are a Spanish-speaking show dedicated to discussing and analyzing pro wrestling from all across the world. From AEW to CMLL, we talk about American wrestling, Japanese wrestling, and of course, Lucha Libre. If something big happened in the pro wrestling world, we will talk about it. So if you know Spanish or have a friend that knows Spanish or want to practice your Lucha Libre pronunciations, go listen to the Lucha Jovers podcast right here in the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Nos vemos por ahí.
Music. It's not just part of our daily lives, it's part of our wrestling fandom as well, and it has been for decades. That's where this show comes in. Music of the Mat, the podcast devoted exclusively to the music of pro wrestling, hosted by Andrew Rich. Hey, that's me. Each episode delivers a different topic with a variety of great guests, fun conversations, musical analysis, and of course, a heartfelt pun or two. New episodes drop every other Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice. Check out Music of the Mat only on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.